It was an hour until the end of the workday, and all the employees were already thinking of home and relaxing in front of the TV. The head of the department, Eva Davis, glanced at her watch yet again, but the time seemed to have stopped. Fred is probably already home from work, and I'm still sitting here and sorting through these reports, the woman thought sadly, pursing her lips. At that moment, someone rudely threw open the door to her office and stepped inside. Eva raised her eyes in surprise and saw a young woman standing in front of her. She seemed to be very sure of herself and gave Eva a contemptuous look. But the most surprising thing was that the woman was clearly in the late stages of pregnancy, which was evident of her rounded belly. "Hello, is there anything I can help you with?" Eva was the first one to break the silence. The stranger grinned in response and putting on a seriously deliberate expression, said, "Help? Of course you can help me. By leaving Fred and me alone. We love each other. Do you hear me? And we're expecting a baby. Just divorce Fred and let us be happy." The stranger was so loud that most of the employees clearly heard her through the loosely closed door of the office. "Are you and Fred a couple? Well, this is very unexpected," Eva replied, having pulled herself together. "How dare you make fun of me? Fred doesn't love you anymore. You ruined his whole life, you barren fool," the guest exclaimed with an emphasis on the last word. Unfortunately, Eva's patience had a limit. Thus, gathering the last of it, she simply put the stranger out the door. Meanwhile, the guest did her best to let the entire office know that she was carrying Frank Davis's baby. When the rude pregnant woman finally left, Eva breathed a sigh of relief and asked her assistant to make her coffee. However, the head of the department didn't have time to enjoy the tart taste of the fragrant drink because there was another knock on the door of her office. This time, it was Megan Stone, Eva's best friend and the senior sales manager, who came to see her. "What was that, Eva? Is that tart really pregnant with your husband's baby?" Megan asked in surprise. Eva only laughed out loud in response, which surprised her friend very much. "Pregnant with Fred's baby? Oh no, dear. I would have gladly believed her story if I weren't absolutely sure that my husband couldn't have children," Eva answered calmly. A tense silence filled the office after Eva's words, and only the regular ticking of the wall clock was heard, which continued to count down the time remaining until the end of the workday. "I'm sorry, it was so awkward. I guess I should go now," Megan muttered, embarrassed, and hastily left her friend's office. With a sad sigh, Eva pulled out the medical report from her desk drawer. The courier delivered it just a few hours ago. Eva's vision got blurry with the whirlwind of thoughts that took her 10 years back, when her relationship with Fred was just starting. They met at one of the student parties and liked each other immediately. Fred was a tall, handsome man. He was a quarterback on the varsity team and never lacked female attention. Eva, on the other hand, was very modest, and although she was pretty and charming, she wasn't exactly beautiful by the common standards. It's hard to say what brought these two opposites together, but there was no doubt that their feelings were sincere. Nevertheless, news of Eva's upcoming wedding came as a shock to most of her friends. But the young woman was used to trusting her feelings and was so sure that she was making the right decision. Unfortunately, life with Fred turned out to be not as great as Eva expected it to be. Fred was very selfish and didn't pay enough attention to his wife and her needs. He spent all of his free time watching TV with a can of beer in one hand and a pack of chips in the other. Of course, young Eva found it very annoying as she dreamed of a completely different life. But that wasn't the only thing that upset the young wife. Unfortunately, during the 10 years of their marriage, Eva never managed to get pregnant. Moreover, Fred attributed it all to a bad ecological environment and didn't see it as all that important. And 6 months ago, he even accused Eva of being infertile. It was then that the woman persuaded her husband to go get tested. To Eva's surprise, Fred wasn't offended by her suggestion and immediately agreed to take the test. Fred was so confident that he couldn't be the problem that he even refused to wait for the results, which took several weeks to get. Ironically, the medical report arrived on the very day that Fred's mistress decided to announce her pregnancy to Eva. Fred will be surprised. He might even have a laugh about it. he doesn't know that he can't have kids. So this woman is probably just some scammer who decided to seduce a wealthy man, Eva whispered with a smile. On her way home, the woman only thought about how to tell her husband about the results of the medical tests. But as soon as the woman stepped inside her house, Fred started this unpleasant conversation himself. Eva, I have to tell you something very important. I kept it secret for a long time. The fact is, I have another woman. We love each other, you know, and even more so, Claire is pregnant with my baby. Fred blurted out in one breath. Her husband's words made Eva feel dizzy. So, this gold digger's name is Claire. And all of it is true? Eva exclaimed, having a hard time holding back her tears. Of course, Fred didn't know that his young mistress had the audacity to go see his wife. Have you talked to Claire? Why would you do that? What did you say to her? Don't you know that pregnant women shouldn't worry? She's carrying my child, Fred exclaimed, indignant. At that moment, Eva felt so furious that she couldn't even utter a word. Having a hard time controlling her trembling hands, Eva took out the medical report from her purse and handed it to Fred. Here, take a look, and after you do, you can pack up your stuff and get out of the house. Eva replied in a tone that wasn't open to objections and left the room. What seemed like a scam at first turned out to be a real family tragedy. More than anything else, Eva regretted having wasted so many years of her life on her cheating husband. Barely managing to hold back her tears, she waited for Fred to leave, and only when the door slammed shut did the deceived woman let her emotions out. Of course, Eva knew perfectly well that she would never be able to forgive Fred for his betrayal. Instead, the woman burst into tears, but then she pulled herself together. The next day, Eva went to work, where she behaved like nothing had happened, despite her red and swollen eyes from all the crying and lack of sleep. And only Megan Stone noticed the change in her friend's face. The insightful woman immediately felt the heartache emanating from Eva. Being her best friend, Megan tried to help her. Why don't you take a vacation and go to the resorts in Miami? I was there last year. Trust me, it's heaven on earth. Megan suggested and showed her friend a few photos on her phone to prove her words. Eva looked at Megan in surprise and then caught herself thinking that she was right. And why not? I haven't been on vacation for a long time. You're right, some time off by the ocean would definitely do me good, Eva answered with a smile. Megan's joy knew no bounds. The fact was that the woman sincerely loved her friend and only wished her the best. Despite her determination to go on vacation, Eva could only leave for Miami a week later. The most incredible thing was that for the first several days, Fred kept coming home and behaving as if nothing had happened. He was probably hoping to reconcile with Eva since they had been married for 10 years. However, Eva really needed a change of scenery. Therefore, the woman bought a plane ticket and went on her long journey. Since Eva spent most of her life in Ohio, the sunny coast of Miami fascinated her from the first minutes of her arrival. Warm ocean waves, hot sandy beaches, crowds of tourists and surfers. It all plunged Eva into a fairy tale world, which was very relaxing and entertaining. Unbeknownst to herself, the woman forgot all about the problems that awaited her back home. One day, taking a swim in the stormy ocean waves, Eva got caught up in her thoughts and accidentally swam further away from the shore than she usually did. The woman only realized how far she was when a strong gust of wind raised a huge wave, which completely covered the woman. Desperately fighting with the elements, Eva felt her strength leaving her rapidly weakening body. And when it seemed to Eva that there was nothing that could save her, someone's strong hand got a hold of her. Being in a semi-conscious state, the woman thought that she had already died and that the ancient Greek god Poseidon was taking her body. Eva woke up back on the shore. The first thing she saw was the face of a handsome young man who was bending over her in order to start CPR. How are you? Are you okay? Can you talk? The stranger asked nervously. Eva forced a smile and nodded her head in response, before closing her eyes. She was very pleased with the attention of the handsome surfer who could conquer any wave. As it turned out a little later, her savior's name was Brian Jones, and he was born and raised under the sun of the South. Surfing was the passion of his whole life, and therefore he couldn't live a day without riding the waves and feeling the excitement in his blood. Talking to Brian, Eva really liked the handsome man who lived one day at a time. It felt like a true ocean romance. To Eva's surprise, it turned out that her unexpected savior didn't have any relatives and was raised in an orphanage. However, Brian didn't complain about his fate and enjoyed every minute of his life. Looking at this tan young man, Eva caught herself thinking that she wanted to stay with him forever. Sure, it was madness, but Eva literally fell in love with Brian the moment she met him. That evening, Eva and Brian walked along the ocean until late at night and talked about life. The full moon shone brightly in the sky and brought their hearts closer with its magnetism and enchanting beauty. Unbeknownst to herself, Eva shared her problems with Brian and talked about her unfaithful husband. To Eva's surprise, the man reacted to this news with his deep understanding, and trying to console the woman, he gave her a gentle kiss. It was probably this kiss that became the starting point in their relationship, which grew from an ordinary holiday romance into something more. The first night they spent together felt like something out of a fairy tale. Swimming in the ocean waves and soaking up the scorching sun of the South, Eva found herself thinking that she didn't want to return to Ohio. Instead, she called the main office and explained the situation to the CEO. The fact was that the company Eva worked for had offices in one of the towns of Florida. Therefore, attributing her request to personal circumstances, Eva asked to be transferred to that particular location. Wanting to keep such a valuable employee, the CEO approved Eva's request. The next step for the woman in love was to get a divorce. She sent Fred the papers by mail. Of course, most of Eva's acquaintances felt that her decision to start a new life was rather risky and outright crazy. But for the woman who finally felt the joy of true love and mutual respect, it was only the right decision. Looking at Brian laughing fervently as he fought the ocean waves, Eva realized that she had found the happiness that she had been dreaming of for so many years. Only 6 months later did Eva accidentally learn that Fred and Claire broke up after the unfaithful husband requested a DNA test for his newborn son. Since the test proved that Fred wasn't the father of Claire's baby, he left his mistress, who got him to leave his wife with the help of someone else's child. Fred even tried to reconcile with Eva several times, but it was all in vain. Having found true happiness on the coast of Miami, Eva knew that she would never return to her former life, in which there were no ocean waves, scorching sun, and caring hands of her loved one.